here I am. It is a pleasure to be with you. I would like to thank CyberCamp and INCIBE for having invited me to be here and to deliver this inspirational presentation. My presentation will not be technical about the work that we detectives do, but my presentation is aimed at telling you the importance or the relevancy that we have at our offices and agencies to hire highly qualified personnel. So this is a quick presentation about myself. I am a private detective security director. In terms of education, I have an IT engineering degree, also diploma in forensics, also awards that I have received, and I am a co-founder and co-organizer of the cybersecurity conference held in Zaragoza con Pilar. I'm also co-founder and co-organization Hacks and Kids, which is an awareness raising workshop for also awareness raising workshop for IT security for young kids and kids, okay, where we raise the awareness about safe use of IT devices. This is the content of my presentation. Very quickly, we'll tell you about what a private detective is, how a private detective gets trained, how our profession is regulated, then the relationship between private detectives and cybersecurity, also what we currently need highly qualified people in cybersecurity in our private detective companies, and then cases associated with cybersecurity, characteristics that a cybersecurity professional should have to work in a private detective firm. Often these characteristics are shared by many of the needs that are requirements when it comes to becoming a consultant. For instance, one of them being availability. However, I also would like to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of it. Then also, what can a cybersecurity professional expect if he were to work in a private detective firm? And then, how can I contact private detective firms to offer my candidacy to work there? And well, I have to say that there are lots of well and regulated jobs in our profession. So therefore, I just wanted to offer this information for you to know whether if you are sending your CV, whether you're sending that CV to a legal company and a licensed company. So let us start off with, what is a private detective and regulation of our profession? First of all, the private detectives are the only professionals that are legally enabled or qualified to obtain and provide information and evidence about behaviors or private matters. So we to investigate on those people, and anyone working in our team has to have legal license. So how many active detectives are there in Spain? 1,400. 1,400. There are like some 4,500 licenses, but only 1,400 active detectives. 70% of them are men, and we have an increasing number of women now, staying at 30%. So, private investigation services, what are they about? Carrying out necessary investigations to obtain and provide information and evidence associated with behaviors or private matters associated to the following aspects. Often we have cases where a person calls us and wants to find out about the WhatsApp messages that his partner or her partner is sending out to someone else, or, for instance, finding out about type of lifestyle of a neighbor, or wants us to take photographs of a person he is maybe related or not. So therefore, we cannot carry out those type of activities. Actually, we cannot carry those type of investigations. Actually, if we were to do it, that would be unlawful. So what are these aspects that I mentioned before? Those associated with wealth, finance, labor, and economics. So therefore, we can investigate people in those fields as economic, financial, labor, and mercantile or trade field, with the exception of the activities that are carried out in domiciles or in reserved places. Okay, and then we also obtain information aimed at guaranteeing the normal development of trade fairs, hotels, exhibitions, events, conventions, so places where there are significant number of people and where there may be people like us not wearing a uniform, ensuring the normal development of performance of the activities. Also, we also carry out investigations to obtain information and evidence relative to crimes that can only be prosecuted after being on the request of subjects that are legitimate in a criminal process. That is to say, we need to have a person accusing it. That cannot be an ex officio prosecution on the part of the government. And then, also very important, qualifications of detective. Well, it seems that anyone could become a detective or claim to be a detective. No, private detectives in Spain are one of the best trained detectives in Europe. And actually, our degree is an undergraduate degree, and there are also training courses given out at university for 180 credits that enable or qualify the person to work as a private detective. What are the universities offering this degree? Valencia, Complutense, Salamanca, Alicante, Udima, Pablo Olavide, as well as other online universities where you can study and and what do we study? Well, we study constitutional law, criminal law, criminal procedural law, civil procedural law, civil law, like if we were going to similar to law school. We also study social, psychological, and criminal science, deontology, and then in the last year, we do practices. We do practices at in firms, in detective firms, so that students, when they graduate, have some practical training, some experience. Requirements to be qualified and licensed as a private detective very quickly. So first of all, you need to be Spanish national or European, then psychological aptitude and physical capacity. What does that mean? It means that we need to have the same, well, obtain the same aptitude certificates that police people or security guards need to have to carry arms. Also, not having any police records. So these requirements are not necessary to go to university to follow the undergraduate studies or the diploma that I mentioned before, but these requirements are needed to be qualified, to be licensed as a private detective. Therefore, after fulfilling with these requirements, I will be getting my license and the card. Now, our profession is regulated by Law 5-2014 from the 4th of April. So this is a regulation for private security. We are waiting for a new regulation for better regulation of our profession. It will be passed soon. Prohibition. What are the things that we cannot do? We cannot investigate. And the people from the cybersecurity world who will work with us will not be allowed to carry out the following investigations either. That is to say, the crimes that are being investigated by the government. If during our investigations we become aware of a crime, it's mandatory for us to report it to the police. Then we deliver all the information and all the evidence that we have gathered. We give it to the police, and that's where our work stops, finishes. Then we cannot investigate intimacy of people as they are staying in the private homes and or in reserved places, and we cannot use this type of information or technical elements or materials that are goes against the right of honor, intimacy of the actual person and of his family, or also that have an impact or violate the secrecy of communication and data protection. We are not allowed to use means, vehicles, or badges that may be similar to those that are worn by the law enforcement agencies. We are not wearing any badges or any sirens in our vehicles. We try to pass the notice as much as possible. I have produced a graph to show you the evolution about the different types of investigations. So this is a timeline from 1990 up until 2018. So this is a very generic graph. So investigations about labor issues, insurance, and unfaithfulness or IT techniques. So, well, if you think that the only thing that we do are investigations about people who are cheating on each other, we don't do that. Most of our activity is devoted primarily to issues, labor issues, and well, nowadays, let us say recently, only 10% of the investigations carried out in some firms are for personal matters with regard to people cheating on each other. And then, but with regard to investigations, technical investigations, IT investigations, or any investigation which is somehow technical, here we're seeing a significant change. Back in 1990, there were less than 5%, whereas now that has been skyrocketed up until nearly 50%. I can tell you that our profession, so here we have people of all ages, a wider range of ages. So now we are having new entrants in our companies. They are very much updated on new technologies. But I'd like to say that other firms would require experts in cybersecurity, pen testers, system administrators, you name it. We will be very soon needing cybersecurity experts in our firms. Nearly 50% of the investigations that we are asked to do are associated one way or another with IT issues. And surely you will not be surprised when you hear that 100% of the investigations In 100% of our investigations, we carry out some types of IT investigation. And even if we say mean by IT investigation, finding out the name of the person working in a company, when as long as we get that information from Google through any browser, social media, so this is basic thing nowadays. And what do we investigate on the internet? Well, we investigate browsers, Bing, Google, social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We use scripter, Python. We abuse APAs. We overuse IPAs. This is for us to get as close as possible to the person or company that we will be investigating. What for? Well, because we want to find out about that person, who is his family, who are his friends, what are his corporate responsibilities, why he meets with these people sometimes and not other times. So you will see later on, well, the usefulness of all that. What else do we check? Do we investigate? Leisure time. What do we do? What we like? Where do we like to travel? This kind of thing. And also, where do we work? Why do we work there and not somewhere else? What was the former job that we had, the former company we worked for? So all that information is available on the internet and we collect it there. What do we analyze? Well, we analyze information provided in the browser, information on social media, personal details, address, ID card number, photographs with the person in them, workplace, education, training. Even if you've given a ticket, a speeding ticket, that information is available on the internet, as well as family relationships, personal relationships, things that the person like, hobbies, also events we are planning to attend. In some of our reports, we have provided photographs that we collected or found on social media where the person was carrying out an activity that was counterproductive. Oh, I don't know whether it is dancing or horse riding or you name it. And then also clients also request us to investigate other matters, and that is the reason why I'm here today. So clients ask us to investigate all unfair competition issues that are very much associated with IT forensics or systems management, also leaking of confidential information, detection of intrusions. Later on, we'll tell you about a curious case about intrusion detection, also industrial espionage. Companies are very concerned about that. This is not only about corporate data going public on the internet, and then issues related to data protection or data protection regulation, but it is about having competitors spying on you and stealing industrial information and kind of, well, overtaking you. And then in terms of insurance fraud, many of the frauds that are investigated in Spain are easily solved through number of posts on Facebook or Instagram. For instance, a person bragging about, I don't know, having driven a racing car or saying that he was, I don't know, here or there, and also information prior to contracts. Imagine that a company wants to engage in business with a Chinese company. Well, a company may have some information, but still don't know what is behind that actual company. The company may look very good, especially at the beginning, after the first order, but then perhaps the Spanish company will never will get paid, or and then, as I say, before engaging into business contracts, we also carry out investigation about the company. And as I say, many of the other cases that we worked in are associated with cybersecurity, whether it is IT cybersecurity, forensic analysis, system pen testing, etc. Why do we need cybersecurity experts working with us? Because often than not, I need an IT expert or forensic expert. I may need as I say, an expert. I may have that know-how. However, sometimes I also want a third party to produce that report for me. And then one of the latest uses that I had where we needed to have the expert witness. I hired an expert witness that I trust, and he produces an expert witness report. And then I also produce a report so that these IT experts also gives his deposition. And why do I need an ethical hacker? Because sometimes I really need to know the status in the systems that have been compromised. I also need an intelligence analyst. Why is that? Because we gather so much data as a result of our investigations, and data not only connected online, but also data that is gathered in the street, because we are following people, surveillance people. Then we bring together all the data that is later cleaned, that is used to produce a final report. Well, so we also need experts in programming, JavaScript, PHP, Perl. These are the paradigmatic programming languages for linking APIs, for any type of misuses or abuses. Then system administrators, often in cases of intrusion, the company may not be interested in that is known that an investigation is being carried out. So therefore, we send someone to go to the company and to see what is happening in the company. Also, editor of IT systems. We need an expert to carry out analysis and auditing for us. And then, well, many other needs and requirements that we find on as we go on. Now I'm going to share with you some cases that are related to cybersecurity. As a result of solving some of them, I was awarded a prize, and some of these cases also helped prevent significant harm to citizens. That's the reason I've been awarded that prize, or those prizes. So this one is a very interesting case. Surely you will resolve it very soon. An insurance company contacted us because one of their insured people reported that some jewels had been stolen at his home. So no force, the jewels were stored in a specific place or kept in a specific place, and we were asked to investigate the case. because the insurers were claiming significant compensation. So we just did a pure investigation, went over there, gathered evidence. So with all that evidence, we moved on to analysis. We analyzed the case. Then, well, some things were not were a bit suspicious. And as we were seeing all that, an idea came to mind, and I said, because these jewels, well, jewels in general, watches and the like, had been stolen. So we were investigating the case, but at the same time, we had to estimate the value of the jewels that had been stolen. So therefore, we asked the insured person to send us photographs where we could see the stolen jewel. For instance, a watch, for us to see the brand of it and to estimate the value of it. And what we expected the insured person was to send us photographs of, I don't know, a big event, a wedding or a first communion. Often that's where you wear your jewels. But contrary to what we expected, what we got from the insured person were just photographs of the jewels, and then all placed on top of a table. There were a series of, well, 3 or 4 photographs, but actually we just did not expect to have him to have these type of photographs. Well, and then we said, okay, let us take a look at those photographs. Let us analyze the photographs that the insured person sent in. Then I said, well, analysis, expert witness analysis. Well, metadata, see what's behind, what are the data of those photographs. We could all do that. Anyone could do that. You don't really need to be an expert. So what did we find? Okay, the theft took place in May. Photographs were made in July. And where? At his home. I took the jewels, I put them on the table, I took a photograph, I sent that out to the insurance company. Well, I don't have information about the insured person. So you don't really need to be an expert to know that mobile phones, well, can send in, well, lots of information attached to a photograph. Well, the case will be taken to court. And as I say, I hired an expert witness for him to carry out a detailed, comprehensive analysis of the photographs. I don't know how the case will be eventually solved, because it is pending prosecution at court. So, second case, stealing of information. The company is asking us to investigate some anonymous document that had been received in the company about internal processes in the company. So these documents were not expected to leave the company. So therefore, we expected someone in the company exfiltrating the company. And then we said, well, surely an employee got a USB, recorded or saved those document data and exfiltrated them. What happens when we got to the place? Well, we worked with an IT system who worked there, and then the IT system expert found that some photographs had been sent out from a PC, and actually these photographs from marketing catalogs. I never thought of that, but that third-party collaborator could see that those photographs had the hashtag of the original photographs that were sent out to clients. And I said, well, there is a mismatch here between these hashes. Okay, so analysis was made afterwards, and then we asked the forensic analyst to do that analysis for us. So that is to say, again, a cybersecurity expert. And what did we find? Well, this person was easily found, located. We knew the IP address. We do everything. We just didn't know how he did it. So we used stenography. And then this person, within those marketing leaflets, he introduced this information which was crucial for the company. And I thought that that information was going to be more specific, but in one of the documents, the only thing, well, he was sending out web passwords for top managers of the company to have an IP access outside the company. You may go and say, well, not a big difference in terms of the file, but there was a change in the hash. Okay, so as I say, we located or found the mail, the IP address, and then his employer confessed that he had exfiltrated information, and that was it.
A more recent case. We were contacted by a client and they told me that the daughter has disappeared from home. They didn't know where she is. My first piece of advice, the one any detective would give, was file a claim, go to the police. The police do a very good job. The Unit for Traumatic Crimes, the wonderful team. The Spanish Civil Guard has a wonderful team too. So any crime related to technology, they'll deal with it immediately. But in this type of disappearance, minors, you have to act very quickly. There's a high risk involved. Anything you do, the more people that are involved, the better. So we took the case and in collaboration with the police, we did something else. They gathered information from devices, mobile devices, phone, etc. They gave them back to the clients. And what did we do on our side? We took those devices. It was a tablet the girl had at home, a mobile phone that she had left, which is amazing. Surprising for a minor. It is surprising for me to let alone a minor. And a computer they had at home in the living room for everyone in the family. So it's as good technology detectives, what did we do? We analyzed those systems. And we found two interesting things. First of all, mobile phones include routes, locations where this girl was usually visiting, and over the past 2 weeks the places were completely new. And we also found a discussion on her Instagram at home, some talk with other minor, a boy. Our hypothesis was that this girl had eloped with this boy. So, together with the police, we worked on this hypothesis. Of course, the police does not have enough resources to investigate, to place people in every place that this girl had been, or to follow this minor. They have the minimum resources. Therefore, any help we can provide. As a matter of fact, private detectives, we are collaborators of law enforcement. We have those resources and we use them. So we consider the possibility of an elopement, and we found the girl were at her boyfriend's parents' place. They had told those people that she had that her life was a hell, that she was living in the street, and they had taken her in as if she was living on the streets. So this case was solved in a private investigation and in an online investigation. So I can assure you that if it wasn't for the capabilities of external professionals, many detective offices would not be able to do this. We need to provide cybersecurity services to private detective offices. A fourth case, intrusion. I was checking the picture to remember what I was talking about. Our company, the pharma company, tells us that there's been an intrusion in the system. They don't know what's was that there may have been information leak. They weren't very clear on that. They told us that they didn't want to file a claim because they thought it could be someone from within the company. What did we do? An external collaborator of ours, a system administrator, so with the link to us, but he was an external person, he infiltrated the company as an employee. Infiltrated sound that, well, he was actually hired. And he starts to work there. We wanted him to have office hours during the night to be by himself so that he can gather information, analyze information, move around. The first thing he said, and I remember this was in a weekend, a Sunday, the first thing he said is that it wasn't just an intrusion. The person or people behind that intrusion, so far we didn't know who they were, they've managed to have persistence on the system. This was a very good pen tester. He's given a lecture here at this year's CyberCamp, and we were surprised to see that there was persistence. And we decided to leave that persistence there and investigate. Investigate when the access is placed, through to know what was going on. And we found the person, the terminal, and how he did it. We know who he was. We didn't need high involvement, no investigation in the streets, but the company told us that based on the profile of this person, they thought he was not alone. There was something weird. So we subject the employee to surveillance, and we saw that for months he had the idea of creating a company with products to be sold. He was to be able to continue extracting. He was going to have a very important competitive advantage against other companies in the sector. We drafted our report. We had expertises carried out by others. The chain of custody was perfect too. We established what this person had done, and this combined with the investigation report, the involvement of his partners. This report was taken to the police because there's been a crime, disclosure of confidential information, etc. This is how we did it. Other cases. We obtain evidence in cases of crimes that can be persecuted at the request of the claimant. We do not investigate ex officio crimes that can be prosecuted ex officio. For example, harassment at work, sexual harassment, discovery and disclosure of secrets. You need evidence for all of this. You need to keep the chain of custody. You see these in lectures given by professionals. For all of these, we need professionals. And very often, these of things, they come to us, to our offices, and we need the technological component. Crimes against honor is usually slander, for example, imprudence, company crimes, intellectual and industrial rights. Why? Because we do brand investigation. If you find shoes on the floor to be sold and they're similar to other shoes from a specific brand, all of this has to do with cybersecurity. Characteristics that a cybersecurity professional needs to have in order to work for private detective office. This may sound very basic, but I need to go through them. Analytic and logical thinking, attention, concentration, memory. Of course, an exercise if I've entered this room, I need to remember the person that was sitting there because of a detail. Communicating skills, body language, influence, persuasion, empathy. The work carried out by this professional that was infiltrated in the company, it was very positive due to his empathy. He immediately connected with other people, and that, considering the fact that he had to work in working hours where there was almost no one around, managing stress and time. Very often we work under pressure, not just ourselves, but those people working with us. Observation skills, curiosity. It's like any IT person, you need to be up to date. You need to check thorough Telegram channels, being meticulous, and synthesis skills. We have a lot of information and we summarize it. Discretion, that's basic. Ethics, very important too. Patience, persevering, the ability to persevere. If you're patient, you'll be rewarded. That's something I repeat all the time. Sometimes we spend 20 hours looking at a door, and perhaps the person comes out at hour 19. Well, it's easier if you say, well, no one has gone out, I'll leave. If you're patient, you'll be rewarded. Constant training and being interested for new information. These things change. In the past, I could look for a phone in Facebook. Now I cannot. I have to do something else. Using tricks, we need to evolve. And for that, you need training and being interested. What can a cybersecurity professional expect from his or her job at a private detective office? Bad things. Timetable, Monday to Sunday. This is like a consulting company. The problem here, for example, the minor, she disappeared on Sunday. If they need something on Sunday afternoon, you have to be there. And the professional that's working for us, they would need to analyze the devices on Sunday afternoon. 24/7 availability, same idea. I think it's summarized here because it's easy to see. We don't know when we will need the expertise from this external professional. It's complicated. Making plans is complicated. I may plan my holidays on December or next week, but you don't know if there will be something coming up on Monday. Well, that's the life of detectives and people working for detectives. Maximum demand. A mistake costs time, and that time is sometimes paramount. For us, time is against us, and we usually have one opportunity. Very often, detectives only have one opportunity, a single opportunity to take a picture or to record a video. Perhaps that person is not going to come back through that door, so you have no other opportunities. That involves tension, but it's interesting too. National and international travel. We move a lot. I've put it under cons. In pros and cons, I've included cons. It could be a pro. So it depends on the person. Some people like moving around, others don't like. Today, I came from Zaragoza here. I'm delighted to be here to give this talk, but I'm coming from Zaragoza. Pros, you're working what you like. I think it's a really cool profession. And working in cybersecurity and analyzing systems and pen testing, something I really like. Working for a private agency, well, it's cool. I know I'm not going to be a detective. I can't. I'm not licensed. But I'm inside. I have a diploma, I have a degree. With that, 3 years. 3 years I can study it online. I'll do my internship in the last year, but I could do it with an agency in my city. It's cool. the next professional private detective will be required to have the two aspects, detective and professional. There's no routine. One day is always different from other, even though it's the same investigation. People do different things all the time. They use a bicycle one day and a motorcycle the next day. One day, this happened last week, it was raining. The person had a car and a motorcycle. I thought he wasn't going to take the motorcycle, but he did. People do weird things, so it's funny seeing what they do. Situations that entail constant challenges. That's great. Everything's new, everything's different. You have to be ahead of the bad guys. Our guys are not really bad. We're not the police, but it's cool. It's fascinating. National and international travelers, that was under cons, but for some people that may be a pro. It's a good thing. Going out, saying we have to take the train, we're going to this place. Main investigations I do are outside Zaragoza because there's a technological component. Because that's what I do. Over the past 3 months, I've attended a training course at a company called Securizame. Receiving training because we need to train. Personal satisfaction, the success in an investigation. You cannot imagine people's faces or how thankful they are. You cannot compare it with anything. It's not like your boss says, oh, this audit was very well. Well, it's different. It really touches your heart. And it's cool. You say, I work for a detective agency. Well, it's cool. It's cool. I don't need to say anything else. How can I contact detective agencies in order to offer my services as a cybersecurity professional? Why do I include this in my talk? Because in our profession, there's lots of professional intrusion. Just need to take your phones, access any service platform, the ones you know, and look private detective up. In our association, the one I'm deputy president now, we investigate. We have a specific commission on professional intrusion, and you see people that put an announcement as private detective, plumber, and any other thing, because people think that anyone can be a private detective. The first thing we do is calling them. Good morning, I would like to hire your services. Are you a detective? Yes. Do you have a license? Do you know that this is a regulated profession? Oh, I didn't know. I cannot say I'm a lawyer if I'm not. I would never think of it, but that's how things are. That's why I included this in this talk. Where can I go? I recommend these two associations. These two ways. Private Detective Association. I recommend you to contact my association. It groups together the majority of offices and professionals from many, many provinces. You just have to contact the association, the secretary, and you offer your services as pen tester, ethical hacker, a work in systems, forensic analysis, whatever you do. You send it, and we circulate this to our members. So there are many opportunities to work, because I insist we need professionals from your sector in our agencies. Another way, Private Detective Professional Association. There are 3 right now in Spain, in Catalonia, in Valencia, and in Galicia. they're going to create the association in Madrid, but it's going to take a while. So my recommendation would be, first of all, contacting association, APDP, for example, and each of the professional associations. Since there's a need, you'll receive immediate answer. And this is the case because we have a lot of people that don't have their own agencies. They're just detectives working for agencies. They send their CVs. So if an agency needs a detective in their area and in the other province, they access the database, they contact this person, they reach an agreement, and that's it. In my opinion, if you can work exclusively for one, that's okay. There are some private detective agencies that have created their external companies devoted to cybersecurity, exclusively cybersecurity. But I think that the right approach, which I'm sure it will be a trend in the future, is that private detective agencies will have in-house staff. Not to be private detectives, because they're not licensed for that, but as collaborators. It's legal, they're considering it, and there shouldn't be any problem instead of using external collaborators. Sometimes a collaborator cannot work in a different province, or it's not that person is not available for a specific topic. Having your own employee allows you to monitor his or her training. You can train that person as an agency. You can send that person to receive a specific training course. Things that will give the agency very good projection, and for the employee, this means an opportunity to work in a cool place. Cooler at least than what you usually see in the IT and cybersecurity world. Well, now let's open our Q&A to see whether anyone has any question, doubt, specific interest. I'll be delighted to answer your questions.
Hola.
Hello. What do you need to get your license as a private detective? I've said it before, but maybe you didn't see it. Right now, there are two ways to access a profession. One, a university course, 3 years, 180 credits, and another university course, also, I'm not going to go through everything. In order to access to become a professional detective, you need to go to university. For these courses, you need to finish high school. I'm not sure about the current requirements, but at least you need to access university. To be an IT expert witness, I understand the Ministry of Justice need to license you as an expert witness. In the case of detectives, do you have to do the same thing? Just something else. In order to be an IT expert witness, you don't need a license. You just need to prove your knowledge on that area. In our industry, we face a situation in which many people say they're IT expert and they've just followed a 3-month course in a little school. They're usually computing engineers, IT engineers. They have university degree, and this knowledge will be required by the judge in order to submit a report to the court. And about detectives, there's a difference between finishing your degree, but the license is given by police force, the Ministry of Home Affairs. With that degree, you go to the Ministry of Home Affairs. You need to fulfill a series of requirements that have already been mentioned, being an EU citizen, no criminal record, and with that, the degree, you get your license. And then you can be a private detective or a private detective agency. Because there's a difference between an agency that can hire third parties or a private detective. The private detective works for private detective agencies. It's a bit complicated to explain. A private detective, as such, cannot provide services to citizens. He or she can only offer his or her services through an agency. The agency has to fulfill a series of requirements and responsibility.
Buenas. La cadena de custodia normalmente se inicia.
The chain of custody, where does it start? For a notary, you've said that you protected a system administrator that works over the weekend, or how does it begin that chain of custody? In this specific case, we obtained the chain of custody since we arrived there. It was extracted and it was analyzed. We left staff there that worked on the extracted material. The intrusion had already taken place. I know what you mean. We didn't manipulate it because it's broken. It's a very good question. We collect when we arrived. We put that person there because we need that person to be there and work. That's when this person sees that there was persistent, but intrusion was recorded. That's what we deliver. Any other question?
Bueno, de todas formas, cualquier cuestión que os surja.
In any case, if you have any other question, I'll be around visiting the exhibition and I'll be delighted to answer your questions. Thank you very much.